This is a Bulldog radio podcast.
The Ferris State Bulldogs have upset the nation's number 2 ranked team. Wide open. Taylor is going to take this one to the house. Touchdown Bulldogs.
Live from the Bulldog Radio Studios, we are back once again. This is the most valuable sports podcast, your home for Ferris State sports and more. Brandon Worth, Joe Nagy here, and we are back at it once again. Great show on deck, Joe.
Yeah, for sure. How's it going, everybody? What a day. Snowing for the first time. Oh, that's rough. But it's going to be a good one regardless. Brandon, this might be the last episode we record in the studio.
Whoa, breaking the news already.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we'll get right to it. The big announcement coming. Bulldog Radio is going through some, quote, major changes, new changes, and are very good changes. We're going to be partnering with the Music, Entertainment, and Business Administration as well as Information Security and Intelligence, and we'll be moving our ship over to College of Business, a much more professional setting, a lot more professional equipment.
And no more 1995 computer and the third floor star in a elevator I think is going to break every time I get in that thing. Dude. Things are looking up, Brandon.
Things are looking up. And the biggest thing with this move, and I can't thank all the people at Bulldog Radio as well as MEBA and ISIS for helping make this possible. It's just going to make the potential of this show so much more greater. And I think that's what's super cool. And especially going down the stretch, we're going to finish out with a bang, me and Joe, of course, for the rest of this semester and next. A lot of great things on deck and a lot of great interviews in store. We don't have one for you today, but we wanted to go with a different avenue for this episode. We're going to get hot on the presses with the debate in the recent news. We'll get to that later in the show. But as always, let's kick it off, Joe. Ferris State Sports Report, we go.
Yeah.
Let's start with the champs. Volleyball. GLIAC tournament title in a dogfight.
What a game.
What a game it was.
I was really super excited. We were up 2-0, and I was like, I'm going to have to go home early. We GLIAC champs. I just bounce out. And no, we had to give it away, and then they had to come back, crawl their way back. And, dude, the fifth set, as much as my back was hurting from those chairs, that was, like, crazy because Our crowd was getting into it. GB was getting into it. I mean, GB's only an hour away, so they had quite the presence there.
Oh,
to
yeah.
be honest, but I think
brought the people.
Our fans drowned them out near the third, fourth set, which was pretty cool to see. And dude, huge for the program.
Huge
really.
for the program.
That was one of the best volleyball games I've ever seen. I feel like even last year at regionals, my bad, we had a little bit of an email situation. We had that little
we're actually
notification.
It turns out that we're actually getting an email from Coach Brandon Wilhelm talking to us, thanking us for shouting out the show. No, I'm just kidding.
Who would have thought, eh?
We wish it would have been that way. We are potentially having a volleyball guest on the next couple episodes, so stay tuned for that.
Stay tuned for it.
But I will say this game was incredible. Flat out incredible. I feel terribly bad for people that missed this game. The best volleyball game I've ever seen. And for those that followed along on Flow Volleyball, I appreciate all the support I got after that game. It was a absolute roller coaster, as Joe mentioned. Taking the first two, Grand Valley fights back just like they did in the semifinals. Take two back from us. And really just made it an absolute dogfight in the penultimate fifth set. We were able to sneak it out. And it was just an incredible game all the way around. It gave me goosebumps almost the whole rest of the game, especially the fifth set on the mics, because it was one of the experiences I was not expecting, such a close game, and it was super good learning experience for me, and I think it was just the cherry on top for how great this season has been for this crew. It was just a fantastic game all the way around. The one quote that I found when I was writing this game, Coach Brandon Wilhelm said, "In my perfect world, we would have put away that bad boy a lot sooner," or somewhere along those lines. In my perfect world, we would have put that bad boy away a little sooner. Like Joe mentioned, obviously taking the anxiety out of play would have been nicer. But I mean, taking a crown against a rival in a great game. I mean, that's going to be a memory that, frankly, you're never going to lose, and it's going to last forever.
Yeah. Also, number 10 from Grand Valley, Jordan Gates, real deal.
Real
25 kills, 23 digs, 25 assists. She was all over the place. It was a nightmare for me because I was trying to be able to do stats for that, and they had like 3 setters.
Yes,
and she was one of
that's
them. I
true.
was like, dude, I hate this so much. But I will say this: when they started to come back, you can definitely tell that our team started to get a little bit more timid. Whenever we'd go up with kills, we weren't really hitting it as hard as we were the first 2. We were kind of trying to place it rather than just hitting it and really just powering it through like we usually do. So that was one of the main reasons why I think they were able to claw back a little bit. And when you got a person on your team that's got 25 assists and 25 kills, and it's just all over the place. Like, she was lights out, especially in this 4th set when it was kind of like, what did they get up to, like 10 in front of us or something like that?
Something like that, yeah.
And she was the reason for like the last like 5 or 6 points of that run. And then we kind of came back a little bit and then fell off, and they were able to take that set from us. But yeah, we just really fell off. I feel like in the 3rd and 4th set, which was really the main reason why they were able to come back, just because we weren't really playing with that intensity like we were when we first came out. I mean, the first set we won like 25-16. I was like, dude, it's gonna be perfect, or no, it's gonna be a quick little 3-0.
Yeah.
But Grand Valley had to be that thorn in our side and come back, but doesn't even matter. It's regionals. We don't have to host, which means I don't have to work 2 12-hour days back in a row. Huge. But yeah. One of the best volleyball games I've ever seen in a long, long time.
One of the best for sure. And Grand Valley has a lot of great players, and you saw a lot of them. I mean, you mentioned Jordan Gates, as well as Savannah Thompson, Kendall Stover. Those were all great players in my mind. Sarah White as well. A lot of them former D1 players. Jordan Gates actually was at Arkansas before she came to Grand Valley State. That's a fun fact for you.
Hey,
yep, I looked in that from my notes. But no, they played really well. And I think the biggest thing, we had the momentum swing that we wanted right out of the gate, being able to win the first 2, and the offense was electric. And Coach Johnson really made a great adjustment defensively up front, going more with the established blocking scheme up front rather than more of the reception to offense game. And that's what really kind of caught us a little bit off balance that 3rd and 4th set. And you could tell kind of looking at the numbers, hit percentage for us was 250.333. And then it went down to 0.167 and even negative 0.021. So you can kind of see that adjustment. Obviously, the 5th set was an absolute dogfight, and I think Grand Valley committed a little bit more errors than they would have liked to. But I think that was just a fantastic game. I mean, shout out to Hannah Tecumseh. What a role she played in that game.
I was about to say that Emma Bleacher went down early. I think it was, I don't know if she sprained an ankle or something. Because
I never really heard the diagnosis.
She was on crutches after that, so it was a little bit scary for that. But she got the call up. She was one of the main people that really come in, especially throughout the season to, when she had to serve, and her serving's been incredible. She at least gets 1 or 2 aces a set that she's in. But she was able to came in really clutch, especially in the 5th set. Came up with a lot of big kills, powering it through their blockers, which was incredible to see. And dude, she really came in really when the team needed her. I was a little bit nervous because I was just like, who are they gonna put in? Because there hasn't really been much deviation from coach, especially with who's kind of been going in and out. It's more of like near the end. If it's kind of we got it locked, it's gonna be 3-0, and like we'll kind of toss some people in. But she was able to come in and really establish herself as a really powerful offensive threat. And that's one thing that I think that really caught Grand Valley off guard, is because when they were setting it, or when Kayla tossed her, she was able to put it down. So
absolutely. 18.5 points for Hannah, 14 of 45.244 hit percentage. That was one of the best on the team all night, and I think that just speaks volumes to how big of a role she played. 3 service aces for her as well. Hannah Mandalape had 17, as well as Claire Nowicki with 16, both with 16 and 13 kills respectively. Nowicki had 25 digs, only trailing Leah Bylot with 30. Lena Anderson also had 20. 50 assists for Kaylee Mott. She is now chasing 5th all-time in school history, according to the statistical sheet.
She's just a sophomore, too.
She's just a sophomore, and she's already almost top 5 in school history. That's how great number 12 has played already in her career. Cyan Fairfield also added 14 points, 9 of 39, as well as 4 block assists for the Dogs in that championship game. I mean, congrats to them winning the title in a great tournament all the way around. Lake State wasn't as clean as you would like to have seen. The biggest consensus after that game, according to the coaches, the players, and what I saw, was Lake State threw a lot of different looks at them, and I think that really prepped them going into Michigan Tech. And Michigan Tech came out on fire. They won that first set, a lead offensive play. Then we established our defense going in, got back to the game plan, as Coach Brandon Wilhelm said, and then really just took it on from there, winning the next 3. and then grinding it out against Grand Valley State, one of the best 6 seeds I could argue of all time in the conference when it comes to that. That just shows you how deep our league is. But shout out to all the team members. Worked really hard for this. The season didn't start as well as they would have liked to. But they played some of the best teams. I looked back, 7 of the teams they played, I believe, in their first 9 games are in the national tournament. That just shows you how tough of a schedule that was. And I think that just speaks volumes to how much confidence Coach Brandon Wilhelm has in the team, as well as just the season overall, because they got the job done. And really, since I'm going to count really quick here, I can't even, what is it, 1, 2, they only had 2 losses since that beginning of the year. No, 3 losses they had since the beginning of that year when they went over to play those tournaments. I mean, that's just absurdity. 24-3 in your last 27. Coach Brandon Wilhelm knows how to get the job done. The team knows how to get the job done, and it's another successful year for the volleyball program.
And GLIAC volleyball tournament team, Claire Nowicki and Kaylee Mott made the honors for that one.
Yes,
Kaylee
sir.
Mott also won MVP for the tournament.
MVP. She's been awesome. So
team's cleaning up, really.
Cleaning house, especially with the postseason awards as well. 4 Dawgs first teamers: Fairfield, Henneman, Delape, Mott, and Nowicki. With those honors, Violet also earned honorable mention. Shout out to all 5.
Let's
but
go.
it was also a team effort, as you could tell, because we had a lot of great play from Elena Anderson, as well as Hannah Tecumseh. Neither of them were honored in
That's true.
all GLIAC, and that just shows that tournament time, it can be any MVP. It's a clean
Anybody
slate.
can step up.
Exactly. So congrats to them. They're going now. They're actually on their way as of now,
Quincy.
according in Tuesday. They're en route to be playing on Thursday. They're going over to Quincy, who will be the host for the tournament. They'll be playing Thursday against a familiar foe, the Ashland Eagles, that they last played a year ago. We were able to sweep them, so we wish them the best of luck as the number 3 seed going in the tournament, and the only 2 ahead, Lewis, who swept through the GLVC crown, including beating the number 1 overall seed, Quincy, to take that conference championship, as well as Quincy being the number 1 overall seed, even though despite losing in the semis, only lost 2 games in 29. Lost 2 games in their 29-game schedule. I think that shows how good they are as it is. Northern Michigan also made the tournament, number 8 as well. Hillsdale, a team that we played, it will be 7. As well as I'm missing Missouri, St. Louis, and those are the 8 teams represented the region, and Rockhurst as well. Those will be the teams that will be playing. So a lot of familiar faces. It's been dominance from all these schools, and we'll be back once again to hopefully play them all the way through.
Dude, I cannot wait.
Wait.
Brandon, let's hop into soccer now.
Yes,
Soccer,
sir.
Big time going
Spoiler!
down. Yeah,
Keep
spoiler.
sleeping.
Underdog went into the Midwest region. First and second round. Thriller against Ashland, tied 1-1 going into shootouts, and then we were able to go 9th round. Bella Sabo called game, got the whole thing down, then went to go play the host Cedarville, won 3-1, more convincing fashion there. What a weekend.
What a weekend.
Yeah,
did you see the tweet that was put out on Ferris Athletics?
Which one was it?
So Ferris Athletics put out a tweet. I noticed this when I looked back on Saturday. This is absolutely brilliant. They put great day to be a dog, and then every individual team went on there and was like, oh, absolutely, indeed it was, okay, oh yeah, can relate and stuff like that. It was just the funniest thing to me because we were all on the same page of what was going on. So that was kind of a funny prompt there. But yeah, I mean, beating Ashland was absolutely huge. It was a team that beat us earlier in the season with their defensive play. We got back to them. I mean, they started off I believe it was right before the half, 37 minutes, yes, if that's correct. And then got it with Nikki May to tie it up, and then ended up going to penalties. We were down after.
Nikki May's shot was insane.
No,
You watched the recap of
Yes,
that?
I did. 20
Dude,
yards.
Volley from the top of the box.
Yeah.
Top corner.
Poof, upper
Silky.
90s.
Silky.
Sheesh. But yeah, absolutely fantastic. It was a really defensive slugfest. There was 33 fouls in this game as opposed to 15 shots. That can just tell you right out of the gate what kind of a game this was. But Nikki May able to score right out of the second half to tie it up. We end up going to a shootout. And as Joe mentioned, Isabella Sabo, one we had on the show, calls game in the 9th round of PKs, win at 7-6.
Got the goalie stumbling, too. The goalie didn't even know what to do.
Yeah. Also, a prime candidate for might not be playing the most, but will come up big in the MVP moments. because she only played, I believe, in the contest 13 total minutes.
Huh.
But she was the hero of the story.
Yeah, crazy stuff, man.
That just goes out there. If you are listening and you are a bench player, do not think your moment will never come, because it will.
Shots. That's insane, man.
And if you're ready for it, you're going to be talked about on a sports podcast for winning the game, being the hero, because it happens. But
mid-range, 2 college kids running a sports podcast.
that's all you need. But I mean, really, shout out to the team for just playing a great game all the way around. I mean, Daria had 3 saves, including 1 crucial save in the Cedarville game, which they went on to win the very next game 2 days later against Cedarville, who was on their home field. That was a huge win over the Yellow Jackets. I mean, just being able to beat them as the 2 seed was absolutely huge. Daria was huge in that game, made a couple crucial saves, as well as Izzy Zamborini netting 2 goals, 1 in the first half, and then the bracer in the final minutes to clinch the 3-1 win in the open net. And then Jesse Bandick also scoring off of Grace Pratt, a header from the corner. Set pieces!
Header that went bar Mexico on that one.
They did it! They scored off of a set piece.
Yeah.
You love to see that.
Header was pretty clean.
It's beautiful. And the Nikki Mako was also set up off of a set piece. Look at how great this team has gotten.
We're really rolling.
Woo!
We are rolling.
Absolutely fantastic.
What a weekend. It was really solid play all around. I think our defense did pretty well. I mean, Cedarville is more of an offense-heavy team, so they were able to get 15 shots, 6 total on goal. But that was the same for us. I mean, we had 3 less shots, but the same amount on goal. So it's more about just making sure it gets on frame, and I think we did a pretty good job, especially just kind of bouncing back as on the offensive side against Cedarville to be able to kind of match their offensive power that they were bringing. But I just, our defense, when it comes down to it, we are one of the best in the region for when it happens. So It's going to be a pretty good one. With that win, we go to Bemidji to go take on the arch rival, Grand Valley.
Oh, boy.
In the regional final.
Here we go again.
Would it just be that one game, and then are they going to a new place after that? Because I know it's like in Seattle. It's like the championship game.
Yeah, I know. So Seattle is going to be host to the festival, which will be for soccer, cross country, volleyball, and then I believe, what sport am I missing?
Soccer, right?
Men's soccer, correct. Those 4 will all be there. Football's still in McKinney with their contracts, so they won't be there. But those sports will all be together competing at the same time, which happens once every 4 years. It's kind of an Olympic vibe that Division II has.
It's pretty sick.
Yeah, it is pretty sweet. But according to the bracket, when I looked this morning, because I also had the same question you did, Joe, if they were to move on, from what at least I was able to gather for the most part, I believe that they stay in Bemidji one more game. I could be wrong, though. So right now, we in Grand Valley are left in the Midwest region. Up above is Bemidji and Emporia. So those 2 teams will the winner of those 2 teams will take on the winner of this game. And then I believe from there that they will play at Bemidji, I want to say. Yep. I can double check, though. But I think that's the way that it's going to go.
I believe it.
I think so. Yes. So I'm...
Probably is. They'll probably play like the one after Bemidji, so there's not like... Because how many regions are there? 4 in soccer? Is the same as football?
No, there's 8.
8
total.
So if you're going to do that, and then...
Yeah.
They're probably trying to knock it out, so there's only like 4 or 5 games at Seattle.
Yeah. I think it would make sense if they did the Final 4 at Seattle. I'm gonna double check.
That's probably what it is.
It's
gonna be that whoever wins, and they. Excuse me.
Yeah, based off of last year, so I kind of cheated here. I went on to our arch rivals website, going behind enemy lines here to kind of see what happened there. So they played the regional championship and the quarterfinal in the same place. Well, obviously they were hosting against the national number 1 seed, Grand Valley was. Then for the Final 4, they went to Colorado, which was hosting. So I believe, yes, they will play at Bemidji then, and then they'll go to Seattle for the Final 4 if they were to beat GV as well as the next opponent, which could be Bemidji or Bemidji or Emporia. So we'll have to wait and see. This team looks really good. I mean, I think we are playing 2-dimensional soccer, offensively, defensively, lights out, and some of the best play we've seen all year. Coach Henson seems very confident in his team, and we wish him the best of luck. It's going to be an absolute barn burner on Friday. That'll be when the game is slated. We'll obviously preview more of that on our next episode coming up later this week.
Faux show.
All right, moving over now. Gridiron.
Football.
Regular season is complete. The
Football.
Dogs took care of business at Detroit. 40-14 victory.
Pretty easy.
Over Wayne
Could not
State.
handle onto the football, I will say that.
Yeah, I blame the snow a little bit for that.
Say snow. That's
Yeah,
not a big
I think
thing.
the snow
It was both
definitely
teams.
made a little bit of it. You could see on the stat sheet and watching a little bit of the game. We had five fumbles, 3 lost. They also had lost 2, as well as we had defensively an absolute heyday defensively on the defensive front. 8 sacks for 57 yards. Absolutely phenomenal from that defensive line. And I thought really we saw a very, I wouldn't call it clean because obviously 5 turnovers is not fun.
Yeah.
Overall in this game. But the defense stepped up and answered the call very well. It was kind of like we got the slap out of our system now, especially going into postseason play, which we'll get to the matchups here in just a minute. But, finishing 9-1, really, that's what all you could do considering the Grand Valley game. But I think that you just kind of look at where this team is at statistically, and I think we're seeing a lot of the same similar stuff. We're still pounding yards. We're still making big plays. We're still defensively giving a lot of teams issues up front, and that's really all you can do when it comes to being able to control the tempo. So I think there's a lot to look forward to. And obviously now as we know our opponent being a familiar foe, feeling really confident going into round 1.
Yeah, that's going to be a really cool thing, especially when you look back at this game. I think we had a little bit of trouble, like you said, kind of getting the slot, by the way, had a wide open pass that we let go, or that the defense kind of let up to give Wayne kind of the answer. That was like a little bit of a momentum boost for them, but we were really able to shut that down and play pretty solid. But going into this postseason, it's going to be pretty sick. When you look at where like everybody's at and just the teams in each region, it's going to be this is a lot better than last year. Especially when you look at, I forget what it is, the one that Angelo State and like Bemidji and stuff are in, that one's super duper competitive. You got School of Mines, CSU Pueblo, Angelo State, Minnesota State, Wayne State, Nebraska. So many of those teams have been ones that have been making some noise so far. But when you look at where we're at, facing against Davenport, that one's going to be a good game. I think still we're probably going to roll them, most likely. I say that now. One sec.
Knock on wood.
Knock on wood real quick.
Of course.
Davenport was a team that a lot of people were like, well, Davenport's going to give Ferris State some fits. But, you saw Davenport wasn't really playing a whole lot of teams that were super great at the start of the year, and then they had to play us and Grand Valley. Pretty much the same thing both weekends, just kind of got throttled a little bit. Of course, we got to go into this like any other game. It's playoffs, and you survive in advance. You got to take one game at a time, which is going to be interesting, but especially when we got a chance to play Pittsburgh State or UIndy after that one's going to be really good. Ouachita Baptist and Northwest Missouri State are playing as well in the region, and the winner of that will be taking on Grand Valley. But I'm hoping, if we win, I'm hoping UIndy wins because I have a friend that goes to UIndy,
nice.
that went to UIndy, and that would be cool to kind of do, to see us beat them a lot, so that would be kind of cool. But there's some other spots around the playoffs that are really looking cool. Especially across the bracket, you got Ashland versus Notre Dame. IUPUI is a sleeper at number 1. I was not expecting them to get. I thought Shepherd was going to.
I thought so as well.
But there is a lot of teams who I think can make some noise in this playoffs.
Yeah, a lot of familiar teams. West Florida comes in as a 3 seed. In the bottom quarter of the bracket in their region, as well as Minnesota State, a team we're familiar with hockey, as well as Bemidji State are also down in the lower corner, as well as School of Mines, a Final Four team from last year. But I think right now we're really liking where we are. I feel bad for Davenport to have to play us once again. It feels like we just can't escape playing the Panthers, it seems like, and I feel a little bad for them. But they're going to be up for the challenge. They would love to have revenge against us at Top Taggart, so we'll see how that goes. And Pittsburgh State's a really good team. I'll be very interested to see that potential matchup with UIndy. And Northwest Missouri State, as we know, is always a really good playoff team. So defensively, they've been pretty stout. They haven't been as good this year as they have in years past, but could be an upset pick over Ouachita Baptist. So it's going to be a very interesting matchup, and obviously Grand Valley with a very new experience having the bye for the first time in a long time, seeing how they respond to that. And obviously they'll be awaiting their matchup, but certainly it's the number one thing. Take care of the football, and this team will be able to be successful. If you take care of the football, you play your game, keep the penalties down, play cleanly. We know we have the talent. We know we have the system to beat anybody in the country.
No GLIAC rest for this game.
No?
Because playoffs.
That's
so
true.
You know what that means? Holding will actually be called.
True.
Which is going to be pretty big for the program. Because
that's true.
What are defense going to do? They're going to try to double team Caleb. I mean, we say this every time. We got 4 pass rushers who are elite. I mean, you can't really do much. So it's going to be called holding. Of course, that means our offensive line has to make sure that they don't hold or anything like that. But I think it's going to be, you're going to see our defense really come to fruition in this playoffs a lot more than what we've seen, which is going to be even scarier. Do want to say something. What happened to Valdosta State this year?
They lost a coach.
Well, that's true. I mean, you go from making the national championship this year to going 5-6.
Woo!
5-6 and losing to some not super great colleges. Mississippi College lost one.
Some say they might have flamed out a little bit.
Oh, the Blazers, man. Tough looks for them. Their coach actually left?
Yeah. He went to, I want to say, McNeese State.
Oh, shoot. As like a...
Immediately. I remember this.
Was it like immediately after the game?
We were on the bus back from McKinney, and I don't remember if you remember this, when we had to stop for construction in, I think it was, where were we at? Were we in Arkansas when we had to stop for construction? You know what I'm talking about? And we had to stop for like an hour. I was doing my recap of the game, and I was looking up their coach, and I found a press release that very morning that said that their coach left for McNeese State. Dang. That morning.
Gary Goff, that's what it was.
Yeah, Gary Goff was gone. I believe now, if you remember correctly, he's at McNeese State to make the D1 jump.
Did he ever play like anywhere, or was he just at McNeese? Gary Goff, football coach.
Yeah, I think I don't know if he ever played, actually. I didn't look up too much into him. I just wanted to know his name for the article's sake. And then I was like, oh, wait, there's an article of him at McNeese State. Was he a former D1 guy? That explains why they're good. And then he's like, oh, no, he's going there. And then I was like, oh, immediately after the game, that's sus. Like, wow.
Well, I guess he played at Valdosta, like in college.
That could make sense.
I know that, but I don't know anything else.
Yeah,
he had quite the record there, 22-3 as Valdosta State's head coach.
Yeah, he was really good.
Crazy stuff.
I give him shout-outs. I mean, he gave us...
What conference is McNeese in?
He gave fits, especially back in 18 when we played him.
18.
Yeah, I mean...
Well, then no fits last year, I'll tell you that
No
much.
fits last year. Yeah, it was not the great look leaving Valdosta after getting throttled in the national championship game. But if he had already planned that in his mind, probably it makes sense. But... it's the way. That's the way he chose. I don't even know how McNeese State did this year. I didn't even look.
Let me look it up.
Yeah, let's see how good they are.
McNeese State.
In the meantime, I'll fill some time here. 18 sacks from Caleb Murphy individually this regular season. I believe that's only 2.5 behind Matt Judon's single season record, which is pretty nice. You gave me a really bad look.
They did not look good, man.
2-8.
3-7.
Oh, that's not great.
Not good looks for the old McNeese
They're gonna need a couple more years. Rebuild, remember? 3 years in the rebuild, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Dan Campbell. No, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say that. Anyway, moving on now. Hockey was in action this weekend. Big win over Mercyhurst. Weird win. Being at the game, it was very obvious it was weird. And
a lot of people at this game.
There was a lot of people at this game.
Interestingly enough.
Thank you guys for packing the pound, and you got to see a winning game.
Big win.
What did we tell you?
It was weird. We scored like 3 in the first 10 minutes.
Yeah, we scored.
And then we didn't score at all.
3 goals in the first 5 minutes, 4 in the first 13.
And then we didn't score at all.
We scored in the first
third.
minute and a half.
Yeah, and then we didn't score till the third, which was crazy.
Yes.
That was something else. Scary hit on former Bulldog,
yes.
Brendan McCallion.
Yes.
That was not the best thing to see. I think that was just kind of one thing where he was just going in. He was kind of expecting him to look up at all, but that was still, I wouldn't say, it wasn't a dirty hit, I would say, but it was definitely kind of a careless one. He was down for a while, which was a scary scene, but that's something that you just don't want to see.
Yeah, so when I watched this hit live, and me and Harrison kind of had a reaction to it, the biggest thing we were looking at was the way that he was hit into the glass, because it wasn't like he was absolutely headhunting. he wanted to get him out of the way to get the puck. That was very obvious. But was it were you looking at initiation of the fight coming in before? I didn't see anything of that nature. But just the way that he kind of leaned back, and then when he ended up getting hit, that it just folded him right into the glass face first, and that's what ended up knocking him out there for the 2 minutes he was on the ice. And that was a scary moment, I won't lie. I mean, me and you, Joe, especially knowing Brendan, we've literally had him on the show, him and Justin, we're good friends with him when he was here. That was a scary moment to see him down on the ice, and I know he didn't want to leave that game. I mean, you could tell in the locker room he did not want to leave that game. He knew he wanted to play on that ice and play against us. So he's a competitor. He's a great guy, and I just hated to see that on behalf for him, because that wasn't the way that he deserved to leave the ice. It just really was a lot dirtier than you would have thought it was. So it was a really tough moment, and you could tell the players and the fans reacted very I don't want to say negatively to it, not in a bad way, they fed off of it and it kept the fighting. Obviously there was still tension, but you could just tell from there the energy got sucked out of the building. It was a very sorrow moment of yeah, we just knocked out one of our former players in an exhibition game, and then from there you could just tell everybody was yeah, this isn't cool. We gotta stop and do something. And Mercyhurst wasn't happy the rest of the game, which I don't blame him.
I got real chippy.
It got super chippy. Penalties were handed out left and right the rest of the way, but not the way that you want to expect that exhibition. But they ended up finishing out. They finished it out 5-1 in the third period. Both teams exchanging goals in the third period. But I thought overall Noah Giesbrecht was very good, 23 of 23 in his performance. I thought the top lines played really well, especially the young guys. I mean, Caden Galt getting a point on that first goal with Dallas Tulik. Jacob Adal assisting for Stepan Pokorny, I thought was huge. Venuto able to score, as well as Schulteis able to score. Brad Merrick able to score. Andrew Noel picking up a point from that as a freshman. I thought the young guys played really well, stepping up. We sat a lot of the veterans going into this game, put a lot of the younger guys up on top lines, moved some other guys around. Bradley Merrick played at the wing instead of the center position, which was very interesting to see how he adjusted that. Hey, he ended up scoring later in the game with that. So, and then also seeing the captains being able to kind of be in their first game in the new role with the letters. I thought Matt Slick is an absolutely phenomenal character and deserves to lead this team. As well as Stein and Brendan McLaren. Although McLaren did not play that game, him and the other guys also showed up, and you could kind of see them down there watching, and that shows how much they care. So, great overall exhibition. Could have been a lot cleaner, could have been a lot better. But you take the good things from that. You take the process is the word Harrison used that I thought was really appropriate. The process of how you played that game, and now you take it and you move it ahead for a big slate this weekend. We got number 1 Bowling Green coming in, which although they're the number 1 seed in the table, they have played more games than the other CCHA opponents. And I would have to say, Joe, I won't be too crazy here, but they are beatable. The Falcons are beatable.
That's true. Sorry, I was looking up the standings just to make sure I could look at it. Yeah, that's crazy.
I know, right? They do not you could go back to the CCHA polls and you can understand what I'm saying. They are consensus not the number 1 team. They could change that, but they are beatable. They're not as a power-driven program and roster as Minnesota State, Northern Michigan, and even I would say Tech for that matter.
Well, yeah, look at it. Last year, I think we were pretty close to beating them. 6-3 at Bowling Green and then 2-1 loss the following night. We beat them last year. I don't know how many people they graduated or anything like that, but we brought in a lot of guys. There's been good development in our program, and I think especially when you look at this 5-1 win, that we had last week, and that's going to propel us into kind of a good slate of being able to get goals across the board. But I think it's more just making sure that, understand that they're a beatable team rather than just looking at the schedule and saying, wow, they're top of the table. They're above Minnesota State, which is pretty surprising by 3 points, which is pretty impressive. But like you said, they've played more games in the conference so far. They've kind of got more of a good feel for what CCHA hockey has been compared to, we've only had 4 games in the conference. So I think going into this game, it's more just making it so when we come out hot, kind of having the same performance that we did in the first period of the last game, and then just trying to keep that go throughout the rest of the way, not trying to get stagnant in the second period or anything like that if we do get ahead, which is kind of what's been happening so far. I've found that when we've been getting ahead by 2 goals, maybe 3 goals at some point, we kind of lay off the gas a little bit rather than trying to, keep going and get the goals going. We let it more be a defensive showcase after that, which really, it's not the best thing because once they do, then it kind of just gives them a little bit more momentum because then we started to, play back on our heels a little bit. It's just making sure that we keep it focused, keep it forward, and keep playing some pretty strong hockey.
Yeah, I think the puck movement was fantastic, and I hope they continue that. And I think that's going to give us a really good chance Friday and Saturday, as well as defensive shifts. I thought were much more improved. Obviously, Mercyhurst isn't the most offensive powerhouse of a team, but they definitely gave us a lot of open looks, and I thought we responded really well to that. So I thought that was really good. So we'll see how it goes. Pack the Pound coming up this weekend, Friday, Saturday, 7 o'clock each now. There was a game time change now that we're hosting Davenport for football. We gave you guys an extra hour here so that you can stop by and watch Ferris State hockey play Bowling Green. So there you go.
Bowling Green does have 9 seniors on the team.
They do. So it's
an
now
old
or
team.
never for them.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll have to wait and see. But we got some young firepower that's ready to counter that and score by a plethora of goals coming up this weekend. We hope and pray that happens. So I have confidence. I
think we will. I feel like we'll probably play pretty solid.
I hope so. Yeah.
You look at Giesbrecht's performance. He had he let 1 goal in on.
No, it was Stein actually that led in the goal
Stein?
in the second half. Yeah.
Stein, never mind. Giesbrecht played incredible in the first
23
period.
of 23 if I remember correctly.
23. Even Joey Henson got in, played pretty solid when he was there. But I think when you look at what our goalies have been doing so far, especially when you kind of put them in and give them a spot where they're able to do pretty well, Logan Stein's been really showing out. Giesbrecht's been really showing out, so not really too worried of who we put in goal either one of the first 2 days, depending if we start, Logan on Friday or no on Friday. It doesn't really matter. I think we're going to be pretty solid in the goaltending department, but making sure that we just play it solid. Get 2 wins, two regulation wins.
Please get a weekend sweep.
That would be sick because we
Huge.
go from 5 points to 9, and then we'd be above Michigan Tech right behind Bemidji in 5th.
Yes, that would be absolutely huge. Anyway, finishing out the Ferris State Sports Report, we'll cover real quickly. Obviously, early season. Can't make too much analysis of men's and women's basketball so far, but they were in action this weekend. Men's took a tough pair of games against Trevecca in Southwest Missouri, Southwest Baptist from Missouri in Nashville at the Robert Garrett Classic, Crossover Classic, that is. 70-69 loss against Trevecca, as well as a 72-65 loss against Southwest Baptist. I looked into this game a little bit, and we overall played okay. I think the worst thing was Southwest Baptist shot like 17% from 3 in that game. They beat us 72-65, and we out-rebounded them. We turned it over 29 times. That is a little alarming. And obviously, it's still early, and that's why we're not going to hit the panic button or anything of that nature. We're not that crazy. So that's obviously something to clean up, and that's obviously one of the prominent reasons why they gave up this game, because overall they shot the ball really well from the field overall and from three-point range, the free throw line, all et cetera. But I think that's just one of the biggest things is you give the other team the ball more, they're going to be able to make more plays. So that's kind of the whole thing of that game. I thought the Trevecca-Nazarene game was it was very similar when you look at the stat sheet for sure. I kind of look back to see how that game kind of went along in that second half, and it was certainly a game where it just seemed like when you looked at where we were, especially early in the second half. We were up, I believe, if I remember correctly, at halftime, 36-32, I believe, was the score at halftime. So we were right there, and we were up by 11, I want to say, actually 12, I believe, going into the final 10 minutes of the game. Scratch that again, 13. Just had to check my math here. 13 would be the answer of 53-40.
You're so smart, man.
I have not done math since high school. Please catch me a break. But this is definitely not the greatest look when you look at the turnovers and obviously giving up that lead. But it is still early. So we just have to be patient. We have to trust the team, and they're going to figure it out. I really do have confidence in Coach Bronkema, and I have a confidence in his staff, the players. They will figure it out. Plus, we're adjusting to the new feel of Wink as well. The new we'll have the new scoreboards in there, which are already put up. Video boards are coming, which is reported. So that's going to be sweet. But playing on the road in a
The
place
volleyball
that's
arena's
really
almost
far
open.
away. Yes, Bulldog Arena does look really cool. Got to look in there the other day. It looks pretty sweet.
Pretty clean.
Yeah, it does look very clean. I'm really looking forward to up in the stands. There's that it looks like it might be a broadcasting perch. I would love if that's what that was. Otherwise, it could be a handicap area for some
Spot,
people to
yeah.
sit. It's just kind of like a flat little railing section of the bleachers, but we'll have to wait and see what that's about. But it's going to be a really good start to the season. Obviously, when we get back at home, we're still in the away slate as of now. But just one of those weekends where you take those lessons and you just got to apply them going forward the rest of the season. And I have confidence that this team's going to do that.
I'm not sure how I feel about the new scoreboards. Not gonna lie.
You don't know?
Like,
I can understand because they're very similar to our old ones.
they are, but they're like okay. So instead of like where the black thing is, where the numbers go,
Yeah.
it's like you saw it. It's like it's like gray and it's like white numbers. It's like white lights instead of like the yellow
Sure.
or what. I think they were still white, right? When we had it in the old ones, it was just black and white instead of, or was it black and yellow?
I think it was yellow.
Or like the light boards and then where the
I think it was yellow, and it was like a darker red more than a black.
Yeah, I can't remember, but either way, I like the old ones a little bit better. That's just my personal preference.
That's fair.
I feel like I'd probably get used to them anyways.
Yeah.
We just got to figure out who is it that was on the scoreboard, because like we have the set kills or the digs, kills, and assist thing, but then we just never put it on.
Yeah.
Which I don't. I mean, we did the same thing for volleyball when it was still in Awogleben, which
Yeah.
makes sense. But I don't know. That's
Not
just
sure.
my little pet peeve of mine.
Little pet peeve.
But I feel like we'll be fine when basketball comes around.
Sure. Finishing out the report, we'll also be playing on this brand new floor is women's basketball. They got 2 wins, 75-69 win at Ohio Dominican. Played really well in that game. Chloe Idoni definitely was the player of the game, 30 points for her in that contest. Got her GLIAC Player of the Week. Congratulations, Chloe. And I think the team did a really good job of taking advantage off of turnovers, 21 off of the Ohio Dominican turnovers. They had 20 total in the game, so I think that was a huge flip, as well as just being able to score well in the fast break was also crucial in that game. They also picked up a victory over the weekend in the next game they had the very next day at Cedarville, 76-66 over the Jackets. Man, we're just having success over Cedarville right now.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully that continues over for regionals this weekend. But Chloe against had 22 against Cedarville as well, so she had another fine performance. And the team overall played really well when it came to, I think, being able to score inside the paint was a big one. You can see it blaring on the stat sheet, 44-18. We outscored Cedarville, even though they shot a plethora of threes. They made 11 threes on 32 attempts as opposed to our 5 of 18. But we were able to pound the rock inside, and I think that, as well as the rebounds, really propelled us to a victory. And that's very interesting because it almost looked like we were getting smaller a little bit from last year. But now with Ariel Jenkins coming back, as well as Ago Nabagwa being able to have substantial minutes, will be very interesting. But I think really you're seeing Chloe Idoni taking a step forward. And I think we're going to see our guards just continue to play really good basketball.
Yeah, that's the one thing. Mallory McCartney has, or when you look at the stat sheet especially, not a whole lot of production on the points-wise, but I think you'll really see her come to fruition with just what she's able to do with her vision on the court and passing ability, because you have Kenzie Bowers who can drive and score basically at will. I mean, I saw that especially when I saw her in high school, but I mean, now that she's here, you kind of see a little bit more. Caden's going to be lighting up from around the three-point line, and Mallory can do that too. But I feel like you're just going to see her, really come to fruit or blossom as more of a pass-first guard. I mean, she was already, but I think now you're going to see that a lot more. And especially when you got Chloe down low, you got Kenzie on the outside, Caden on the outside, and Deshauna kind of being in the middle. You're really going to see a really, really, really well working together team. I think everybody's going to adopt to what they have to do. Especially, like, their roles are going to get really, I wouldn't say are going to get super specialized, but I think whatever role that a person steps in on this team, they're really going to do well with it, and that's what's going to make this team do really, really solid, especially when GLIAC play comes up. I mean, we got Northwood on Wednesday at home, which is going to be really cool. Can't wait for that. And then it's going to be a pretty solid one to start up for GLIAC because Grand Valley's coming to town. So.
Yeah, sir. Big games on deck. You can follow that all on FerrisStateBulldogs.com. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, me and Joe are going to break down the debacle going down with the World Cup. Believe it or not, it's almost here. We're going to chat it up, discuss, and give our reactions. Stay tuned.
Nearing the 2-year anniversary of this podcast, Brandon and I have found that Anchor.fm is one of the only things that have been able to keep us up and going here in the studio. Anchor is a great way to distribute your podcast as well as edit and basically make sure that everything's running smoothly. If you want to start your own podcast, go on over to Anchor.fm. You can learn all the ins and outs of making your own podcast, distributing content, all that good stuff. That's what we use. That's what we recommend. Anchor.fm. Give it a shot.
Back we go. Time to debate. FIFA World Cup, believe it or not, Joe, starts on November 20th. That's Sunday, if you're listening to this episode this week. That's way faster than I remember, one. Two, being held in Qatar, and what I've seen around the development of everything surrounding the World Cup.
It's a dumpster fire right now.
Very interesting. What are your thoughts?
Basically. So a lot of things going on with this FIFA World Cup situation, a lot of human rights issues kind of going down stuff, a lot of people think it's not going to be a good time because there's not going to be enough people there. Qatar is basically the size that has the population size of Nebraska. For a lot of you people who didn't know, they have like maybe 1.3 million people there. The biggest thing about this World Cup is that a lot of people were saying that it was basically paid for by Qatar, like they paid to have it there, because back in the day, who was it? Sepp Blatter, the former FIFA president who basically got kicked out for money laundering and just that whole fraud scheme, just of, taking bribes and stuff. This was like the big thing was that Qatar paid for it because Qatar is not a huge country. It's not the greatest spot to be able to get fans there, compared to where it's been before. I didn't really like the choice of it being here because for a lot of especially if you look at, England, stuff like that, Europe countries, this is still, 4 or 5 hour time difference for USA, or for North America, Central America, and South America. Games are going to be going on at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. It's not going to be the best thing. So it wasn't really, especially with that, a lot of people are having problems with. But that's the big thing is that there's just not many people. But the funny thing about it is a lot of the people are saying that Qatar is paying fans for promos for this because on TikTok, there's about, I think, 10 or 11 videos released. I can't remember the exact number of this guy going up to just random groups of there's 50 to 60 people in the different kits for these countries saying who's going to win or whatever, this, that, and the other thing. And they would all start cheering. But there wasn't really anybody who looked like tourists. It was all people who lived in Qatar. So it was just it's pretty clear it's all staged just to be able to get hype and stuff. And everybody think that it's not going to be much. As well as the big thing that I want to talk about too is there's a lot of things going on that World Cup stadium workers are basically having their rights stripped away. They're not getting paid. They're really getting put in really harsh working conditions, trying to get these stadiums done. They built 5 stadiums. Is it 5 or 8? 8 playing venues, and I think they had to build 5 or 6 at least.
Yes.
And these stadiums are not cheap. They are state-of-the-art stadiums that have incredible architecture to them. I'll give them that. But there are just a lot of things going on with this World Cup that seem a little wishy-washy, a little fishy to me. But yeah, there's a lot of things going on. There's illegal recruitment practices and getting some of these workers in, nationality-based discrimination, widespread labor rights violations, persistent abuse for some of these workers, and some of them are saying that they're not even getting paid to be able to do this, and their lives have been ruined. So there's a lot of things going on with this World Cup that seems like should never have been in Qatar in the first place, seeing as what's going on. But Brandon, now that I laid that all out for you, what are your thoughts on this World Cup?
I don't like it. And the reason why is weird in November because obviously normally it's a summer thing.
Yeah.
Which obviously that kind of changed with why Qatar wanted it this go around for this year. And I think with the overall schedule of it, I think it's not going to be viewed that much, 1A, because NFL football is going on, college football is going on,
it's also
NBA is going on.
Like I said, North America, every single game is going to be at 3 in the morning. 3, 4 in the morning.
Pretty
basically.
much, yeah. Which
it's almost a 10, 12-hour time difference.
Yeah. Obviously, that's biased from being in a North American perspective.
Yeah, we're part of the Western world.
That
so
understand.
Whatever,
I understand. I don't have any right to argue that with them, which I understand. But the biggest thing with it is the way that it's been set up, and I think what Qatar is really trying to do it's obvious they're paying to try to get their country more publicity, and that's really why they wanted to have the World Cup in the first place, because one, their overall country as far as size, geographic, just the whole structure of how it's made, where it is, isn't quite suited for hosting this big of an event with all the venues they had. They obviously had to build with it, which I think they'll do. I think they'll do an all right job. Like, I mean, I got to see some of the stadiums on a video. I don't know if you saw it with.
Yeah, I saw those.
Yeah, so being able to see those videos,
some of them are sick looking.
They are
like,
super cool
the way
stadiums.
that they built them are really cool. Like Al Bayat Stadium, which says 60,000, looks kind of like it's like a tent looking thing.
Yeah,
which is pretty sick.
Yeah,
and there's other ones that are really cool.
Yeah, the stadiums are cool. Yes, they're super cool. But what are they going to do afterwards with those stadiums?
That's what I'm saying.
They're going to just fall to the ground.
Qatar
has apart. Yeah,
I feel like Qatar does not have the capability of filling those stadiums with. I mean, I'm sure that they have soccer leagues in Qatar, but to be able to fill it up, no shot.
Correct. Like, if it were, for example, to be in North America, which we were also second in the voting, by the way, if that makes you mad.
We're still going to joint one.
Yeah.
We're going to joint one.
Yeah, we are going to joint one, which will be cool. But it won't be. It was supposed to be. We were in the running for this year's World Cup with Qatar, and they outbeat us basically because they paid more money, is what it sounds like from behind closed doors. But beside that point, we can be able to withstand that event. And as far as putting it together, because we make some of the best events in the world when it comes to like Super Bowl, for example, when it comes to a lot of these different huge sporting events all together, like we've held the Olympics, we'll be holding it in LA in 2028. So we know we're very capable of that, and like we're able to keep it going. Like we've held the World Championships in track and field at the University of Oregon. And people will go to it every year because the venue, year after year, Hayward Field, is absolutely elite and cannot be touched. And that's even going to put it in some of the biggest stadiums in the world. It's just the whole experience around it. The experience in Qatar is not going to live up to some of those standards. And that's why it just doesn't look like it's going to be as great of an event when you compare it to like Rio de Janeiro and a lot of the other big events that we've had in years past for the World Cup. It's really just a tough thing for me to get behind, and especially with, I mean, the whole thing starting with the bribery thing really gets me on edge to start the entire thing. The fact that they kind of paid themselves extra to get into this and get the bid kind of illegally, that doesn't sit right with me.
It was cleared in an investigation that they didn't, but people are saying, like, why would you have it in Qatar when you have the U.S., which has arguably, I mean, the Qatar has 1.3 million people. The U.S. definitely has more than 1.3 million soccer fans. Yeah. Probably in each state that
there's quite a few.
Like I don't understand. That's one thing I don't understand.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is you kind of look back at like what I noticed from the Rio de Janeiro overall, like that whole. Obviously, there was some still things going on with like. The environment when it was in Brazil, and then obviously like years later we had like a couple of the major Olympic events that ended up getting canceled because of like the Zika virus and stuff of that nature. If you remember that was a really prominent thing in golf where we had people. I remember we were talking about that on this podcast actually.
Yeah, a little bit ago.
For a couple years ago. But when it came to like South Africa, I thought that was one of the better environments. I would say not necessarily from overall location, because like Qatar's a beautiful place. Like it's not like you Dubai or something like that where it's just like holy grail, like you're gonna see it on a picture frame in an office and you're gonna be like, whoa, what is this place? But the atmosphere around South Africa, I felt like it was a lot different comparatively to like Moscow when it was in 2018. It felt really different. But I think that when you look at where Qatar is kind of standing overall, one, the venues obviously are going to be nice, but they're not going to be maintained. Two, the bribery altogether. Yeah, it's the bribery altogether doesn't sit right with me. The treatment thing is definitely worth mentioning because like they've had migrant workers actually like die that have put this thing together, and that really hasn't been mentioned. And I think I read up something that they are literally, some of them are working 14, 18-hour days to try to make this possible.
That's what I'm saying. They're not getting paid for it.
Yeah, and obviously one thing to mention is it's going to be in the weather. It's going to be a big factor because the Qatar's in the desert. It's in the Middle Eastern desert. Like, it's going to be over 40 degrees Celsius. Yes, it's over 100 degrees for some of these players that are used to playing in Seattle, which is literally going to be raining all the time, or even up in Canada where it's going to literally be snowing right now. So that's a huge difference. But obviously that's not going to be like the biggest thing all, because obviously you can't control that where the place is going to be. But it's just not going to be the greatest venue. I don't think people are going to enjoy it as much with all the things around it. And I think with just kind of the player perspective, especially for the Europeans, like they have a legit argument because a lot of their players, some of them might not play because it's Premier Club play right now. Like they literally scheduled it in the worst time when these clubs are still playing rather than the summer where they're on break.
Yeah, I don't know why. The way it's annoying because the one thing that I have to think about is just the atmosphere. Is it going to be the same? Because when the World Cup was in, what was it, Brazil or whatever, and the World Cup was kind of all in those other places. When Spain won it, I can't remember when they had it there, but when you look at the atmosphere of some of these games, Qatar is not going to be able to replicate what it is to be, because you have, especially when you have like Brazil or stuff like that, or when you have it places where there's a large group of people and a spot where it's honestly a lot more easy to go watch if you're not even from that country. I feel like Qatar, to be able to go there is going to be a lot tougher than, if they held it, in U.S., it's easy to come vacation in the U.S. You just got to get a visa, then you can come and stay or whatever. But to go to Qatar, it's like you're not going to get the same atmosphere, and that's going to suck for the players because you play in the World Cup because it's the biggest stage for soccer. You'll be able to get watched on TV by millions, billions of people probably, which is the one thing. But in person, are these stadiums going to be able to get filled? Is Stadium 974 going to be able to get 40,000 people in the stands? I don't think so. There's 40,000 people, and there's 40,000 seat stadiums. There's two 60,000 seat stadiums for the championships.
Yeah.
If you look at the U.S., every single college stadium has more than that.
Yeah.
Every single college football stadium has more than that.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that because back in 1994, they played the World Cup final in the Rose Bowl.
Yeah,
I don't know if you remember that. In Pasadena, they packed 94,000 people in there to watch that
Manchester
game.
United played Real Madrid at the Big House.
Yes.
115,000 people showed up for that game. If you wanted to actually make it a good atmosphere for the fans and the players, you wouldn't choose here. It's just because of the money. They say that they didn't pay. They definitely did. Number two thing about it is I am very much against a lot of these big events that have, like the Olympics or the World Cup, for building stadiums. Because most of the time, that doesn't work out. 9 times out of 10, it doesn't work out. Look at Greece.
Have you seen Beijing?
Look at Beijing. A lot of those Olympic Village doesn't even get used
You can literally
anymore.
Google how bad some of those facilities look now.
They are so run down. The place where they had the opening ceremonies, run down.
Yep.
Nobody even uses it anymore. If you were to go to the U.S. or to England or something like that, where they have the facilities to be able to house a lot of these things, you got to go to a spot, especially for this, where it's not going to be an economic burden for the place to be able to figure it out. Rio de Janeiro, back in when they had the World Cup there, that place is run down. They're not using half the things. If you go to America, you could literally go to L.A. or to California, and you'd have stadiums galore that you could use. Because for Summer Olympics, look at this. You got Dodger Stadium. You got Angel Stadium. You could even go to UCLA and use their thing for maybe a couple things. You got the Rose Bowl. You got wherever the Chargers play. You can go to the Coliseum, wherever you want to go. But if you really wanted to move around, especially with the sharing between Mexico, Canada, and America for the next World Cup, you're not going to have that problem because the stadium's already built.
Sure.
I have a big problem with it is because you're wasting so many man hours and stuff like that on stadiums that are just going to go away, and you're wasting so much material, and you're doing you're clearing out some of these spaces that could be used for such better things and such more beneficial things for the community around them, rather than just a big stadium that's probably going to go out a bit. I don't know what Qatar is like for, how poor they are, for if they have poor situations there, because most likely they just have a lot of money if they're able to pay that much. And Qatar seems, it's right by Abu Dhabi, isn't it?
In that area, yes.
So money stacks is basically what it's calling. So I don't think they're going to do that much, but I just feel like they're going to see a lot of these stadiums just go to waste in a long time. And that's one thing that I hate about these big events. I love watching it, but especially when you leave it, it's just like, well, okay, what are we going to do with these stadiums?
Yeah.
Nothing.
I don't have a full problem with building the stadiums. I think that's a unique way to build into the game. My problem is especially in Qatar's sake, what are you going to do with the stadiums when they're done? Now, if you built stadiums in America, like, not saying that we need more stadiums for Pete's sake. We have so many stadiums. We don't need to. But if theoretically they wanted to, at least we can build them and have these world-class facilities that can be used for hosting things like the MLS Cup Final, or that you can use to host even other events if you want to hybrid them into a football stadium or whatever. Like, you could make that happen. But the problem is that personal pet peeve of mine, not to get personal on this podcast, but having empty buildings and rundown facilities that are just not used and they became like a waste of money drives me crazy. Mm-hmm. And obviously, like, that could be the prime thing that we're going to see in Qatar. But it's just really tough for me to get behind that, especially with all the other things going around, especially that they're not properly having workers build those under the conditions that they deserve, as well as, like, one note of it is Qatar, like, economically is way, way worse than in parts of America. Like, the economic overall structure is very bad. Like, it is going to be super expensive for people to buy tickets there, buy concessions. Like, I think I read something here on a list that said it is the number one most expensive place on the earth to buy, like, beverages like beer and booze and that stuff.
Qatar is a place of luxury.
Yes.
And I think when you're looking at hosting a place for any athletic type thing, that shouldn't be the first thing. Because to me, people who enjoy watching sports aren't the multi-billionaires who are on their yachts and stuff like that. When I think of watching sports, I'm thinking of blue-collar people or just like regular daily people who go and watch to be able to be a part of a community, to be able to have that type of camaraderie and to have that one thing kind of unite everybody. When you go to Qatar, I feel like you're not going to get the same, like I said before, you're not going to get the same atmosphere, and you're not going to get the same feeling from what it's like to be able to watch it in person when you go to places where it's going to be like, if you had it like in England or something like that, or if you had it in the U.S., you'd see a lot more camaraderie. I feel like this one you're not going to, because I feel like because it's tough, because I don't want to say like you have to be poor to watch sports to actually get a good experience of it, but I feel like when you have a space where there's so much money involved and there's so many people who are so rich, it's just not the same type of experience viewing it, and you're going to be able to see that on TV.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like.
Yeah, I think we're going to, bold prediction, I don't think we're ever going to be considering Qatar to host ever again after this.
Never.
Just saying, not necessarily saying the tournament's going to be bad, but I think it's going to be way underprivileged for what they paid up to get it. I think they're not going to be able to put in the same amount of effort as what they did to pay
Absolutely
for it,
not.
which was also illegally. But that's beyond the point. Anyway, the games themselves could be very interesting.
November 25, England. It's going to be called soccer from then on. USA versus Great Britain.
We're going to beat them.
that much. We're going to beat them.
Let's go.
It's going to be called soccer.
Oh, boy. That'll be interesting.
Soccer. No more football.
Revolutionary War Part 2?
Dude, probably. That one's going to be sick. I'm going to watch that game. I'm straight up watching
You're going to wait, you're going to Qatar?
No, I'm watching it, though.
Oh, okay. I was like, wait, you're going to the game
I
after
can't remember
arguing
if it's like in the morning or in the afternoon or probably late at night, probably. But I'm
I don't
watching the game.
remember.
I'm watching that from the straight first kickoff to the time it ends. And I'm telling you what, USA all the way, baby. We're winning that. I forget who else is in our group. I think it's Hungary and someone else.
Yeah, I can double check for you. I was just looking up the
World Cup groupings.
fixtures and groupings
Google.
myself, but
World Cup groupings.
yes, but it's going to start off Qatar and Ecuador on Sunday. Obviously, not many people are going to be watching that game. I believe Iran is in our group, as well as one more team.
Rapid fire groups.
Wales
Rapid
is
fire
in.
groups, real quick.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. We'll switch it up. I'll go do Group A, you do Group B, so on and so forth.
Oh, no, you can just read them all.
All right, Group A, Qatar, Ecuador, Senegal, Netherlands. Group B, England, Iran, USA, Wales. Group C, Argentina, Saudi Arabia, Mexico, Poland. Group D, France, Australia, Denmark, Tunisia. Group E, Spain, Costa Rica, Germany, Japan. Group F, Belgium, Canada, Morocco, Croatia. Group G, Brazil, Serbia, Switzerland, Cameroon. Group H, Portugal, Ghana, Uruguay, Korea, Republic.
There you go.
There we go.
All
Group
right.
B, I feel like, is the big one. Group B is pretty sick.
England,
that one's
Wales,
gonna be
and the
crazy.
U.S. all together.
Group C is probably going to be another one.
nasty.
Because you'll have Mexico, which has Chicharito and stuff like that. Argentina, you'll probably have Messi. I don't know. Is Messi retired from national play?
I believe he's
Never mind.
retired.
Argentina, get out of here.
They're
you
still
have
pretty
Poland,
solid, though.
You will have Poland, though, which has, what's his name?
I think. Wait, who?
Poland. Who is on Poland's team? I know who it is.
Are you talking about Lewandowski?
Yeah, that's
Is that who it is? I might be.
Yeah, that'll be a pretty good one.
Yeah. Is he from Poland?
Group E is going to be pretty solid. I feel like that one's an underrated one. I feel like actually it's probably not. It's probably pretty. I mean, you have Spain, which is
that's
really
the one
good.
I'm watching.
Costa Rica, Germany is going to be pretty solid. Group F, I feel like Canada honestly could run. No, you got Croatia. Croatia's going to run the table in that one. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, that one's a very interesting one in my mind. I would definitely say group. I would want to say G is also a very interesting one. You got Switzerland, Cameroon, Brazil, and Serbia. A lot of underrated teams in there, from what I've read, as well as Group H would be very interesting. If Ronaldo would be playing with Portugal. I don't know if we've actually heard if he is or not. As well as Uruguay, who's been a very good team to play.
Is it Uruguay or Uruguay?
I think it's potato, tomato
like
at this point. There's so many different
depending
ones.
on where you're from type deal.
Yeah, I think so. But it's going to be a very interesting World Cup. I think the United States is a pretty solid team, a very young team, an upstart team. And it seems like this year we've had a lot more emphasis going into the World Cup. And I think that's very
Well, we got the LeBron
promising.
of soccer with Christian
Pulisic, the LeBron of soccer.
I think we got a good chance to, I wouldn't say run the table, but to make some noise, I feel like. Because this is kind of the first time we're like, I mean, last time we were in the what's it called? In the World Cup, I think we didn't play super hot, but we did beat one team, I think. But this year I feel like we got some pretty good players. A little bit better expectations, if you ask me.
Yes, I would agree with that. And I think with our players, too, I think we have a really good roster. A couple years, it seems like, especially under the coaches, it wasn't like a whole lot of love there. Overall when it comes to that, but
I feel like the chemistry is there.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I think it's definitely better, but I think we have a lot of great players overall. I mean, Matt Turner in goal is not going to be obviously the likes of Mr. Tim Howard, but it could definitely be interesting to see what he does there. We got a lot of young upstart players. DeAndre Yedlin is one that I've watched in the Premier League a couple times. Who's a really phenomenal player. Weston McKennie is an up and coming talent for sure, especially playing over in Europe in the Premier League. Jordan Morris, Christian Pulisic that you mentioned as well. I think we have a lot of talent. I think that this is a very young team, but I think it's still a very good team that can provide some noise. And I think this year, overall on the board, I'm not going to say it to jinx it, but I feel like not as star-studded lineups across a lot of other teams, especially now when you got guys like Messi that have retired and a lot of the other olden greats that have moved on. But still going to be a lot of interesting games, I would say, for sure. And it's going to be fun to watch. And we're going to be doing it from our own homes, not from Qatar, from the conversation that we've had just now. So let us know what you think. Obviously, this will probably be on YouTube later on. And you can leave your comment down below what you think of Qatar and the World Cup altogether, and why the United States is going to make it 20 times better when it eventually comes to the States.
Absolutely, baby.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Soccer, not football.
It's going to be soccer from now on. You can take that to the bank.
25th?
Mm-hmm.
What time?
Count it down. I don't even know.
Oh, well, whatever time it is, we'll be there.
Whatever time, it's game time.
Game time. Beat England. That's where it starts.
Woo!
Thanks for listening, y'all, to this episode. We know you love soccer. So if you want to hear some more soccer, let us know. We'll be back to regular scheduled programming from a new place coming up next week, but we'll finish out this week and our final episode later this week here from the Bulldog Radio Studios. It's been a fun run in this building, but we're on to bigger and greater things. So until the end of this next week, make sure you subscribe and on all of our platforms, as well as follow us on social media. But until next time,
take care, everybody.